the mead gospel, and do things like that for small meaderies, and do what I can to promote the industry and help home mead makers. So I do my part by doing things like that.
I'm right there with you, son. Right there with you. I've had more people than I can count go, when are you opening your meadery? I'm like, I enjoy being the Barbara Walters to the meat industry. It's fun. It's been a great job for 20 years, and I don't see any reason why I should stop. And, the moment I become a professional meadery, then I don't get to do that anymore. This is so much more fun. And besides,
it is.
There are plenty of people making awesome mead professionally. I don't need to be there for that. They're already doing it,
And that's a kudos to shows like God Mead. That's a kudos to the majors. That's a kudos to Stram and Peter and all these, and Wayne. I can keep going on and on about all the people who have laid foundations in this industry. And as you see, all these people who are turning pro, like John Talkerton, Jason Phelps, Billy, I can go on, Alex. These guys make amazing mead, and the quality of mead is really going up because of the education of mead's going up. So how do we keep that going, and I want to keep that going. And, everybody can't be a commercial mead maker. First of all, I don't have the patience.
Yeah.
Second of all, I don't have the patience, so I couldn't do it. But what we can do is give mead makers a vehicle like to be able to increase their craft for the people who want to go, and and there's a lot of people who want to go commercial, and there's a lot of people who just, like myself, just want to be a great home mead maker.
Yeah, that's what we had so much input at the AMMA conference about that last year, that this coming year we're doing 2 tracks, and it's going to be, one track will be running. Oh, we've got somebody coming in. All right. Wait, and it went away. False alarm. It came in, it went out. But we're doing 2 tracks. One is running your meadery, and the other one is making more awesome mead. So, there will be a whole track devoted to just making better mead, regardless of whether you're pro or home. The techniques are the same. So that's something I'm really looking forward to pulling. We got Tom Reppus is going to come on and do a thing on beekeeping, and I've got 3 or 4 other people who are lining up to give talks about fermentation management and yeast management. The hard part's going to be picking and choosing, because I'm going to have more people than I have slots for, is what's going to come down to.
Well, I'm sure you will do a great job with that, Vicky. You always do.
I don't know about that. This last year was the first time I've ever done a conference, but it worked out, much to my surprise.
I'm pretty sure that kicked a whole lot of ass.
Thank you. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it never did, so apparently it worked. So, yeah. But yeah, it was a hell of a lot of fun, although very stressful putting it on. This year I've learned a lot to where I'll be able to not stress my brains out and actually get to have a little bit more fun than I did, this past year. I was too busy stressing to realize how good it was. I was like,
I think we need to make hot tub priority.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
Instead of doing it at the end.
Yeah, I agree totally. Hot tub party, man.
Well, I'm glad one of the tracks is going to be on fermentation, because as I talk, and I did a local talk at my local homebrew club, Ash, a couple weeks ago, and one of the biggest things out there is fermentation. And as much as it's talked about online, and as much as it's talked about in the Mead Makers group and on the Got Mead forum, people still think that it takes 2 to 3 months to ferment mead, and
I know.
I've been doing this for a while. Matter of fact, I started 4 meads about 2 weeks ago. I would say the average bricks was around 34. So we're talking about 11:30, somewhere in there. And I do track my data, so I got historical data for fermentation, and all those meads finish within a 12 to 15 day window, fermenting at 60 Fahrenheit. So it really doesn't take that long to ferment a mead if you're using proper rehydration protocols and you're using a good nutrient regimen. You can crank out good mead. You know, our goal as mead makers is consistency, and using those things do make you more consistent. Now, granted, I'm not trying to knock anybody's mead making techniques or anything like that. There's more than one way to skin a cat, but if you're skinning a cat, the FBI will be looking for you because that's just straight up wrong. But,
that's right. How could you? Cats are nice people, too.
But on that note, you know, can you ferment mead without nutrients? Yeah, you can. You know, I can also go to battle with 100 people, and I can give you a slingshot, but I'd rather use an automatic weapon. So this is a rated R show, so I can say automatic weapons. I am a country boy. I do like to hunt and shoot stuff. So back to me. You can ferment mead without nutrients, but our goal, at least one of my goals as a mead maker, is I want to be able to do a consistent product. Nutrients and proper fermentation, when I say proper fermentation, I mean fermenting in the right range, it gives you a consistent product. I can repeatedly produce that same mead, and that's what we're all trying to do. You know, I give so many people recipes, I stopped doing that because they call you all the time when it doesn't work. But it's amazing, you can give them the same recipe that you've been doing for 5 years, and you go to taste it, and if you give it to 10 different people fermented it 10 different ways, and it won't ever taste like yours. Mm-hmm. Because so there is some science in it, and people want to debunk science, but there are improvements that have been made to the mead making process, and we need to take advantage of that. You know, most people have pictures of superheroes on their wall. I have a picture of a cell and a cell membrane and all the inner workings of a cell. I know that's wrong, but I kind of like staring at pictures of cells all day underneath them. Underneath the microscope.
When you're not working.
So, well, I do work a lot. I am a geek. I'm a super geek. Me and my wife, my beautiful wife Robin, who allows me to do all these things without killing me, because she could have killed me a lot of times in my sleep.
I saw the pictures of your hallway, so she must love you a lot.
Well, you know what? She gets to drink a lot of mead, and you know what I tell her is, like, I don't golf. I don't bowl. I don't do anything. All I do is putz around in my garage and make mead.
So you're home.
Most women are looking for their... Exactly. In my garage, making something. So I'm never too far away from home, and there's something to be said about that.
There is a lot
in my mead room.
Speaking as a wife whose husband travels a lot, yeah. Although this time we're traveling together, which is kind of cool. So that's all right. But yeah, his work takes him away a lot, and lately a lot more. You know, so yeah.
So, you know, that's part of our little pre-show rant that I was talking about with fermentation, and, you know, and primary, if done right, it really doesn't take that long, in my opinion. And you can get really consistent about it if you're using, you know, a good yeast rehydration protocol, and you are using good nutrients to feed your meat.
So what are your standard protocols? What do you do generally, like, with every single mead?
Well, I'm going to go over what I'm using now, because anybody who knows me knows that I'm a mad scientist, and it might change by the month. I love to play around. I love to tinker. Before I talk about what I use, you know, one of my long-term goals for me is to have the same kind of research that the wine industry has. So I would love to, when I retire from the geek world, to go out and get funding and do, you know, yan studies on the first day of the must, the second day of the must, when you're rehydrating the must, you know. we all guess about stuff, but it'd be nice to really, really know about some of this stuff. So I'm always switching up the protocols that I'm using. But right now, I'm rehydrating with GoFirm, and you can get documents everywhere about how to properly rehydrate with GoFirm. So I'm not going to go over that. But I'm using Fermate O right now, but I'm also using just a little bit of DAP too as well at the 24-hour mark and a 48-hour mark. So I don't use a lot, but I do use a little DAP. And another common misconception I see out there, and I'll give you a link to the Stats Lab data sheet on that. I always see people say that Fermate O is just yeast hulls. No, it has some amino acids in there too as well. It has other stuff just besides the yeast hulls. So there's some other stuff in Fermate O too as well. I love using it for right now, but you ask me this question in 30 days, Vicky, and I can swear it changes because I'll experiment with superfood and Fermate O. I'm never satisfied. Complacency kills. My goal is to make the best meat. I'm obsessed with making meat. I live it. I breathe it. I inhale it. I think about it. I dream about it. All I want to do is make good meat, and I am really obsessed with doing that. And if I do it one way and that one way works, I'm always going to tweak it. And, that's the ability that the home meat maker has that the commercial guys don't have. And I see so many home guys, they envy the commercial people. And that's great. And there's a lot of commercial meat out there. But you know what? They don't have the freedom sometimes to do some of the weird stuff that we do.
Yeah.
I'll start a mixed fermentation mead with Torsporla and some sack yeast, and I'll just do all kind of crazy stuff. So we could spend a whole show on just some of the crazy stuff that Carvin does.
I'll take you up on that. You know that, right? Don't even put that kind of stuff out there. I would totally take you up on that. So let's go back to the Carvin Wilson of yesteryear. How in the world did you ever come by mead? I mean, what was your first experience with mead?
I would say my first experience was in the Marine Corps. I served 6 years in the Marine Corps, and like any Marine in the world, I'm trying to get cheap alcohol. So what's cheaper than going to the store and getting some honey and trying to ferment some stuff yourself in the barracks closet? I made a lot of crappy mead in the Marine Corps. I learned how to.
You need to talk to Rob. Rob made it with honey packets when he was in the sandbox, man.
Grab a handful of honey packets every time you go.
He said, you have no idea how many honey packets it takes to make a gallon of mead.
If I go back through my notes, I could probably tell you. So I would ferment anything. I would take apples from the mess hall, apricots, whatever. I just okay, I need some cheap hooch, and I do whatever I could to get me some cheap hooch because I was one of that cheap guy who just didn't want to spend money for alcohol. So that's how I got kind of into mead. And just like everything, life kind of gets in the way. Kids, work, job, college, everything starts to get in the way. And I kind of stopped for a long time. And 10 years ago, I got kind of back into it. But I would say I got heavy back into it in the last 5 years. And a lot of that really, really has to do with my homebrew club, the Arizona Society of Homebrewers. I kind of lost my love and my drive for it, and getting back into that homebrew club and getting back into that environment and being around people who shares the same passions as you, like my friend Jeremy Volks and one of my friends Warren. you get together in those groups and you start talking about mead and you start talking about fermentation, and you rediscover your love, and that's kind of what I did. I just kind of like fell back in love with it again, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm gonna